Welcome back to the third and final part of tonight's show. If you are just joining us, we've already finished parts 1 and part 2, where we tried and discussed Larceny Small Batch Bourbon, and we covered the first half of Sons of Anarchy Season 1, Episode 6, titled AK-51. I want to quickly remind everyone, please like and subscribe. Be sure to leave us your questions and comments in the comment section below. And you can also email your questions to us at ask@bourbonbros, that's BROS.TV. And as always, if your question doesn't suck, we might even answer it on a future show. All right, Ken, let's get into the back half of the episode. We've got 5 more kind of key moments to talk about. If you don't mind, I'll kick things off.
Sure.
We left off with Gemma just flat knocking Cherry out with the skateboard.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, she sat down on the curb and knew she was going to jail. So I want to talk about what I lovingly refer to as the argument.
Okay. I think I know where you're going.
So Gemma shows up at the police station, and as she gets walked by, Clay sees her and asks Hale, "Why is Gemma here?" Mm-hmm. And Hale lets Clay know that Gemma's been arrested, and an argument ensues right there in the middle of the police station.
Mm-hmm. She's been arrested for assault. I think that's made clear.
Yes.
Hale.
And you have Clay, who kind of just gets up, pushes Hale out of the way, opens the door, and yells at her,
"What the hell did you do?"
Same thing you did. Nailed some little tart from Nevada.
Like I don't have enough shit oozing out of my ears. You gotta go and do this.
Should have thought of that before your dick went on a cheerleader hunt.
Hey, I didn't tell her to come here.
But she's here.
Well, it's not my fault.
And it's not my pussy.
I wasn't expecting that to come out of her mouth.
No, it was an unbelievable scene. This great back and forth right in the middle of the police station. And then the little cherry on top is our new good friend, Agent June Stahl, who's standing there observing all of this and turns to, I believe, Hale and Cone,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. And as she observes all of this, she just says,
"And that's why I'm single."
it's great.
It's funny. Her character.
I think it's one of my favorite, if not the favorite scene of the episode. It's just so good.
Yeah, it was a great exchange.
Anything else about the scene that stood out to you that you liked?
Just in that same scene, I think it happens maybe in another segment, but in that same setting where Clay is talking to Gemma while she's in jail. Clay's been cleared at that point.
Right.
He's free to go, but he wants to try and make things right with Gemma. And there's some dialogue there where he's essentially saying, "I don't want to leave here without you. I'm going to stay right here until it's time to go." Gemma is sticking to her gun. She's a little bitter. She doesn't want to leave. She wants to spend the night there and just kind of have some me time.
Yeah, well, still a little pissed off.
Still a little pissed off. But just some of the dialogue Clay has with her, like, it's the softest I've ever seen him get so far with her. Soft for Clay, but professing his love to her, basically saying, you know, your love is more important, something to that effect. I paraphrase that.
Yeah, I think
It
it's
won't
a
happen.
great...
It won't happen again, is what he says.
Yes, and I think this is a great catch on your part, because you're right. You're not only seeing Clay show a lot of vulnerability, much more than you normally see, right? Because up until this point, we've seen him do things like cut a man's balls off with a knife, right? But it's also where Gemma kind of learns and realizes that while Clay may have misstepped with Cherry, Gemma is still his true love. And so you can see kind of all of that fear of kind of being traded for a younger, newer model goes away.
Yeah.
And Gemma's kind of able to make peace with it.
Yeah, you can see just in her expressions, like he diffused the situation. She accepted it and felt loved again.
Yeah.
Felt important. So it was a good
Absolutely.
scene. A good
Yep.
scene.
Totally agree. All right. I think it's your turn. What's your next moment?
What jumps out to me? Another scene I liked. I'll refer to it as oil cans and hard nipples. You know where I'm going with this one?
Our good friend Agent Stahl once again coming in with some heaters.
Yeah. So she's trying to piece this together. She ends up in the office there with Agent Cohn and Hale. And for some reason, she's got a couple oil barrels in the office. So how did that happen? I have no idea. But she's sitting atop 2 oil barrels, and she's trying to explain what's happening in Charming.
And how long has she been sitting there waiting for someone to walk in? Like, these are not comfortable to sit on. Hale walks in and she's just there hanging out on oil cans. Like, what the hell?
Oh, that's too much. But she breaks it down for Hale, right? Initially. I mean, Cohn's there. There's some other things going on there in the office, but help me break down what was said there, what she was trying to describe. She's basically saying that she's gotten to the bottom of the IRA thing because there's some markings on the barrels that shows the barrels
if you
are
back
coming
up
from
a little bit. I believe it was I actually can't remember if it was Hale or Cohn, but one of them finds that, I think it was Hale,
Yeah,
who finds out
it
that
was.
Piney has a connection to Meineke and I think the father of the guy they sprung from the convoy. And so when Agent Stahl finds that out, and she's standing between Hale and Cohn, she grabs him by the ass.
Mother's little helpers. Give me my goddamn warrant.
because she's very excited about her discovery, their
Yes.
discovery.
And Hale's got this look like, that is so inappropriate. And then you've got creepy Agent Cohn who seems to like it and just laughs.
He kind of enjoys it.
But
That's
that
right.
gives her the information she needs to now go get the warrant. And yes, she finds these oil cans and kind of pieces together that these oil cans are what the IRA is using to transport guns to Sam Crow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you said oil cans and hard nipples.
Yeah.
Where
Help
do
me
the
out with
hard
that.
nipples come in?
Well, that's she's very excited about what she's learning there, right? And what's been discovered, and she's just getting so excited about breaking the case. You know, she whispers into Hale's ears.
My nipples are unbelievably hard right now.
My favorite part of that scene is she's breaking everything down for Hale. He's listening so intently, and then just in a split moment, she steps out of that, says that, and then goes right back into the oil cans and the gun running. And Hale's just like, what the hell just happened? Agent Stahl.
Funny. Yeah, great character. Lots more to come.
Indeed.
So back to you. What's up on your list?
All right, let's get to Opie blowing some shit up.
Okay.
So Piney finds out that Meineke and his buddies are held up in some hideout in the mountains. Jax has basically made Piney set up a meet, and they're going to sell the remaining guns that no one else wants to buy to the militia at pennies on the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
They're then going to use those guns to plant some explosives and take the entire militia out so that the ATF can't use that militia to get to Sam Crow.
Right.
Right.
You don't see all that until it happens. You don't piece it together.
It kind
I
of
didn't.
it's a slow burn, right? Like you see Jax telling Piney to set up the meeting. You see the scene at the clubhouse where they're all making the explosives, right? Opie's putting the explosives together. And then you see the scene with Jackson and Piney where Jax is kind of making sure that Piney knows what has to happen. And Piney, I think, says something to the effect of, you don't have to tell me that.
Yeah.
I know.
At the cabin.
So they're laying down all the pieces to the puzzle, but the picture's not quite clear yet. You don't have all the pieces. And let's jump forward to where they do the gun deal.
Okay.
Great scene. So much going on here. You mentioned one comedic moment already.
Mm-hmm.
We should revisit that. I think it started with the comment of,
That smells like shit.
Long story.
Your assessment is accurate.
right. It was like, if you want the guns, shut up about it. But
Because frankly, at this point, that's all they're worth is pennies on the dollar.
yeah. Very true. Very true. And yes, I don't remember who it was, but somebody pulls the gun out and you see wet sewage shit just fly off. Such a great catch, Ken. I noticed it too, but I'm so glad you brought it up because you know exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But Piney, there's a really nice moment and some great acting between Piney and the actor
Nate.
who plays Meineke.
Mm-hmm.
What about that scene struck you?
Just, I don't know, what the end of it, where he kind of gives him a kind of a hug and wishes him the best, knowing what was going to happen to him. He asks about where he's going, and he's going to end up in Mexico, kind of running from things and running his empire from there, is what he asks him. Nothing else jumps out.
Yeah, it's a really nice moment. I like how Piney asks whether or not there are any wives or kids, right? He wants to make sure no innocents are killed.
Good catch.
I love how when he goes to give his friend a hug, right, he smiles and then they embrace, and you now see Piney's expression change, right? Because it goes from, I want to give a friend a hug, which is what he's showing on the surface, to I'm saying goodbye.
Mm-hmm. You catch that.
And then with that, I think music can play such an important role in the feel of a scene, and the music during that scene is haunting.
Yeah,
especially if you listen to the words.
Mm-hmm.
Like, very deliberate song choice there.
Do you remember the song? It's like "Ride Baby Ride," or what? Am I right or am I wrong there?
I did look it up, but I don't remember. But it's essentially there are lyrics about, you know, flying high and becoming an angel, and it's obviously tied to the fact that they're going to basically kill all these militia, right?
Mm-hmm.
The scene overall was so well acted, and there's so many little moments. I love when Opie has the remote and he's about to detonate, and you see that pause, right? I don't really want to do this, but I know I have to.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that pause and that kind of like, ugh. And then you see him push the button, you hear the explosion, and Jax is like, I'm heading, you know, we're done. The work here is done. Gets on the motorcycle, pulls up, and then there's a neat little exchange between Jax and Piney.
Yeah. There was. Piney, throughout the episode, to me, it felt like Piney was, I wouldn't say threatened, but doubting Jax. You know, every step of the way, like, it's another generation that's taking over. You don't know the history here. You don't know what it's like to be a leader. And it shifts back at the end of that to where Piney compliments Jax.
All this shit landed on your back. Handled pretty damn good, kid.
Thanks, old man.
The only thing that was a little, like, I get it. It was authentic for the scene because while you have Jax, who's very intelligent, he is young and is a kid. But it took a lot for Piney to say that, and then you get Jax just kind of going, "Thanks, old man," and rides off.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He doesn't really like. That's a that's a heartfelt moment, and Jax
Kinda blew
didn't
it off.
necessarily get it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think that's true for the character. Like, he's just doing what he needs to do. He doesn't really think about it as being some big thing.
Yeah. Good catch.
All right. What else for you? Give me another one.
Probably near the end, where Clay doubles back around to pick up Gemma at the jail. She's getting released in the morning. And they come out, and look, guess who's walking up yet again? How does this happen?
Cherry.
Does she like walk everywhere? Like, how is that happening?
And how did she know that at that moment, Gemma was going to be released and Clay would be waiting?
It's in the script. So anyway, like, they come out. Clay sees her, and he's like, "I'm gonna handle this." And Gemma jumps in and says, "I got this." She walks out and has exchange of word with Cherry. And the takeaway there was Gemma learns that she's not there for Clay. She's there for Half Sack. And they kind of make peace. Anything about that scene you want to add there?
Yeah, I like how when Gemma told Clay, like, Clay's sitting there going, like, "I've just repaired my marriage. And now it's starting over again," right? So Gemma's like, "No, I've got this." And Clay's like, "I don't want you to go back to jail." So Gemma's like, "No skateboards, I promise." Right? Great little comedic relief.
Right.
And then I do like the exchange between Gemma and Cherry. Cherry basically apologizes and now knows who Gemma is and gets a chance to explain why she's there, right? It's for Half Sack, not Clay. And I think my favorite part of that scene was where Gemma kind of gives Cherry a warning.
You so much as flash a pretty grin at him, I will jam my fist so far up your bony ass, your cup size will double.
Is that how your rack got to be that size?
I remember that.
So I actually think Gemma basically says, not a good time to be a smartass. But I think she sees herself in Cherry and respects her toughness.
Yeah.
And also realizes, like, Cherry's going to make a good old lady.
Right.
So there's a lot of kind of subtlety in the way that scene plays out, but I definitely got the sense that Gemma saw the younger version of herself in Cherry and kind of likes her for that reason.
Yeah, wants to like her.
But then she goes back to Clay.
She heads back to Clay, and when she turns around, Clay's looking at her, and he has a smile on his face. And Gemma,
he looks like the cat that ate the canary. Just this shit-eating grin.
Work everything out.
Relax. A threesome ain't gonna happen.
Try saying anything about it, please.
You are so transparent. Just take me home.
Yes. And you have Clay kind of like, "Whoa, what?"
Oh, yeah, it wasn't me. And she said, "You're so transparent," or something to that effect.
And it's a funny moment, but I also like seeing the playfulness between Clay and Gemma in that scene. And it is a great way to kind of end that scene in that moment. You realize, like, if you weren't already sure, you now know Clay and Gemma are okay.
Yeah, back to normal. So that's it there. So why don't you bring us home here? What do you want to wrap up with?
So what I want to wrap up with is what I would say is a very subtle scene, but if you kind of peel away the layers of the onion, it's really, I think, a great way to end the episode. So after that scene with Gemma and Cherry, and then you have Gemma and Clay, and Gemma makes Clay very clear that the threesome is not going to happen. Right? Clay hands her a helmet, and she gets on the back of the bike, and Clay's going to take her home. Right? He's there to pick her up, and he's going to take her home. earlier, in an earlier scene, because creepy Agent Cone has rattled Tara, Tara has asked Jax for a ride home. And you don't really know why. My assumption is she now knows she needs to tell Jax about creepy Agent Cone. And the request for a ride home is basically an opportunity for her to do that.
And she may be a little scared too.
And she's
I got the feeling
right?
because
And so
of how
it's both
creepy he's
protection,
being.
but I think it's, you know, I don't want to do it here at the hospital, but once we get home, I'm going to need to tell you something. And so the way that the episode is shot and edited is you see Clay giving Gemma a helmet, Gemma getting on the back of Clay's bike, and then it cuts to the hospital and Tara's putting on the helmet and getting on the back of Jax's bike. And as it kind of goes back and forth, they both ride off together.
Yeah, that's a good catch.
I thought it was a very kind of poetic scene. Clay and Gemma riding off from the police station, Jax and Tara riding off from the hospital. And you can obviously see like there is a true love between both of those characters, and it's kind of mother and father, son, what could be a daughter-in-law. But then just to break things up a little bit, there's one car that peels out of the hospital parking lot following Jax and Tara, and it is
Creepy Agent Cone. What a freak.
Agent Cone.
It's right there.
So we don't get to see what happens, but I think this is teeing up the next episode, and things with creepy Agent Cone and Jax are going to come to a head.
Yeah, we shall see. Do you know the name of the next episode?
I do. So the next episode, which will be episode 7, is titled Old Bones.
Oh, yes.
Does that give you a clue as to what we cover in that episode?
Yeah, I think I see. Yeah.
So I think a few shows ago, we warned everyone, creepy Agent Cone, right? When you first meet Agent Cone, you don't know he's creepy. And we were the ones that said, this guy is creepy. We gave everybody fair warning. In the next episode, episode 7, Old Bones, you're going to start to find out just how creepy Agent Cone is. And Ken, there's one scene that is just flat strange.
Okay. Let's hold it for next week. I can't wait to see where you're going there. I can think of a couple. We'll compare notes.
Yes. So we'll leave that for next week, but we're to the second most important question of the night.
Okay.
I think in order for us to deal with creepy Agent Cone, we're going to need something really good to drink.
I'd agree.
So what do you think we should choose?
What jumps out? You select this one.
All right. So since we've already teased it in a prior episode, we did the Russell's Reserve 10-year bourbon. And I mentioned in that episode that rumor is that bourbon was specifically created to go head-to-head with the Eagle Rare 10-year bourbon from Buffalo Trace.
All right.
So I say we venture into some Eagle Rare.
All right. I'm in. Looking forward to it.
I am too. I'm actually excited to get into a bourbon from Buffalo Trace. I've been wanting to get into their offering on this show for a while now. And I'll give you one little fun fact that I think you're going to like.
All right.
You'll remember that when we did the Russell's Reserve 10-year, you noticed that because it had been aged longer for 10 years, there's a little bit of a bite, a burn, a little more smokiness.
I recall.
Despite the 10-year aging, Eagle Rare is known and to be considered a sweet bourbon.
Is it?
10-year aged, matured, but still on that sweet side. think you're going to like it.
All right. I'm looking forward to it.
So with that, we'll let it lie and we'll get into the next week. And that is going to do it for tonight's show. We hope you had as much fun as we did. And one final reminder, for those of you watching on YouTube, please remember to like and subscribe and check out our channel for more shows. And for those of you listening to the podcast, please leave us a review, preferably 5 stars, and subscribe to the show so you don't miss any future shows. But most of all, we want to thank you for joining us on tonight's show. We hope you will join us here each and every week on the Liquid Courage Show. Good night, everyone.
Good night.